In the last hour, the authorities in Los Angeles have been giving more details about their investigation into the deaths of the actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa. They say he died from heart disease after his wife passed away from a rare infectious illness.
After Gene Hackman's cause of death revealed, it is tragic, sad. Officials tonight say the actor's wife died a week before Hackman. His longtime love, Betsy Arakawa, died of hantavirus. It's a rare flu-like disease linked to rats.
You worry about your health? Are you
I try to take care of myself. I don't have a lot of fears. I have the normal fear of passing away. You know, I guess we all think about that, especially you get to be a certain age. I want to make sure that my wife and my family are taken care of.
In a tragic turn of events, the serene life of Hollywood legend Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa came to a sorrowful end in their Santa Fe, New Mexico home. And now more shocking details are emerging. The couple was discovered deceased on February 26, 2025, prompting an investigation that has since unveiled a series of poignant and unsettling details. Investigators have been combing through every detail to ensure nothing goes unnoticed, and there is even a firm belief that Hackman, a flying enthusiast, might have left some evidence in his private jet, a revelation that might as well change everything. But even before that, investigators also revealed that Hackman and Betsy had two strange interactions with a man months before their deaths. In newly released body cam footage obtained by Fox News Digital, the classical pianist's hairstylist detailed how a frazzled Betsy allegedly expressed concern about being followed on two separate occasions in December by an individual she had never seen before.
He was in an advanced state of Alzheimer's, and it's quite possible that he was not aware that she was deceased.
She mentioned to me that there was a man that had parked outside of their gate and followed them. Her hairstylist, a man named Christopher, told law enforcement, on two separate occasions. One occasion is when they went to White Rock. They went and had lunch there, and the guy followed them from parking lot outside of their gated community, followed them all the way to White Rock. She said, "Christopher, I'm surprised that security didn't know how he got there, because when we left, I noticed that this car had followed us from the residence to White Rock." Christopher said Betsy told him the man had pulled out a folder of photos of her husband and wanted him to sign them. And I said, "We were sitting here and I said, that's so weird because Santa Fe's not a place of paparazzi and stuff," he told police. She said, she approached him and said, "I told him he needed to have more respect." On a separate occasion, the same man followed them to a different location. He had offered the Hackmans a bottle of wine, Betsy told Christopher. They declined to accept the gift. I said, "Oh my gosh, Betsy, that's crazy. You should not have approached this person. This makes me nervous," Christopher said. He knew what they drove. That's the scary part. According to the Santa Fe, New Mexican sources, on March 13th, a lawyer for Hackman's estate filed a petition in the State District Court in Santa Fe, attempting to prevent the medical investigator and the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office from releasing the footage. Lawyer Kurt Sommer wrote that once the images are released, the bell cannot be unrung. He also argued the couple's right to privacy outweighs the public interest in the couple's death. He cited Kurt Cobain's death in his petition and pointed out that a court refused to release the death scene photographs. Undersigned counsel cannot think of the respective harm that would come to the state and county offices from respecting the discretion of Mr. Hackman's and Mrs. Hackman Arakawa's right to privacy, he wrote. During their lifetime, the Hackmans placed significant value on their privacy and took affirmative, vigilant steps to safeguard their privacy, the lawyer added. A few days later, the Hackman estate was awarded a temporary restraining order against the release of records regarding the deaths of Gene and Betsy. The order stated the Office of the Medical Investigator and the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office, including each entity's agents, assigns, and employees, are hereby temporarily restrained from disclosing through IPRA or other means any and all photographs or videos containing images of the following: the body of Gene Hackman, the body of Betsy Arakawa Hackman, the interior of Mr. and Mrs. Hackman's residence. Additionally, any lapel video footage, including the Hackman's bodies or footage of images of any deceased animals at the Hackman residence, was added to the temporary restraining order. According to the order, the Office of the Medical Investigator was temporarily restrained from disclosing the autopsy and/or death reports. A hearing was set for March 31st. The alarm on the couple's death was raised when a maintenance worker, concerned by the couple's unresponsiveness, alerted security personnel. Upon peering through a window, they observed someone lying motionless inside, leading them to contact the authorities. Responding deputies, as captured in recently released body cam footage, conversed with the workers who made the distressing discovery. The footage also depicts officers reaching out to Hackman's daughter, Elizabeth, to inform her of the tragic news and discuss arrangements for the couple's surviving pets. Initial assessments suggested that Betsy Arakawa had passed away around February 11th. However, a closer examination of cell phone records revealed that a call was made from her phone to a medical concierge service on February 12th, indicating she was alive at least a day later than previously believed. This call, reportedly seeking medical advice, hints that Arakawa might have been experiencing health concerns before her demise. The Office of the Medical Investigator determined that Gene Hackman, age 95, succumbed to hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease with advanced Alzheimer's disease contributing to his passing. Betsy Arakawa, 65, died from hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a rare and often fatal disease transmitted through contact with infected rodent droppings. Investigators noted evidence of rodent activity in their residence, though the exact circumstances of her exposure remain uncertain. Authorities also believe that following Arakawa's death, Hackman, due to his advanced Alzheimer's, may not have comprehended the situation entirely. It's likely he remained in the home with her body for several days before his own death, possibly unaware of her passing and unable to seek assistance. This tragic sequence underscores the profound challenges faced by individuals with cognitive impairments and their caregivers. Hackman, renowned for his roles in classics like The French Connection and Unforgiven, harbored a profound passion beyond the silver screen: aviation. This fervor for flying not only enriched his personal life, but also intertwined with his cinematic endeavors, offering a unique lens through which to view his illustrious career. His fascination with aviation was not merely a casual interest, it was a dedicated pursuit. In a 1990 interview with the Los Angeles Times, he revealed that he had engaged in aerobatics, a form of precision flying, for over a decade. He mentioned purchasing an Eagle, a two-seater plane, expressing a desire to fly more frequently. However, film commitments and insurance constraints often grounded him during productions. He questioned the risks, stating, "You can't be a weekend acrobatic pilot, otherwise you will be an ex-acrobatic pilot." This passion for flight extended into his personal life, where he and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, embarked on flight training together. Their flight instructor fondly recalled the couple being joined at the hip, highlighting their shared commitment to earning their certifications. This joint endeavor not only strengthened their bond, but also underscored Hackman's dedication to mastering the skies. Hackman's love for aviation seamlessly blended into his acting career. Notably, he starred in Bat 21, a 1988 war drama where he portrayed Lieutenant Colonel Icil E. Gene Hambleton, a U.S. air navigator shot down during the Vietnam War. The film, based on actual events, showcased Hackman's ability to channel his real-life aviation enthusiasm into a compelling performance, adding authenticity to the role. In the wake of recent investigations, authorities have released body camera footage from outside the home of Hackman, where the actor and wife Betsy were found dead. The redacted footage shows deputies talking with the two workers who called authorities to report seeing someone lying on the floor inside the home. With no signs of forced entry or other evidence of suspicious circumstances, the deputies asked about the possibility of a gas leak or carbon monoxide poisoning, and the workers said they didn't see how that could have been the case. "Something's not right," one of the workers said. Authorities soon determined there were no leaks that could have been fatal, further fueling a mystery that captured the public's attention. The body camera footage also shows brief sightings of one of the couple's dogs running in the wooded hills on their property on the edge of Santa Fe. A man who identified himself to officers as a dog trainer who cared for the couple's pet dogs said the couple were nuts about their dogs. "There's toys everywhere around the property," he said. In a separate video, Arakawa's hairdresser told investigators that his client took the dogs with her everywhere and that the smallest one would often hang out inside the salon with them during her visits. That dog was found inside a crate, not far from Arakawa's body. A report obtained by the Associated Press from the State Department of Agriculture's veterinary lab states the dog likely died from dehydration and starvation. The actor's daughter, Elizabeth Hackman, told authorities she wanted the dog that died to be cremated. Authorities put her in touch with the local animal shelter to talk about the options. Establishing what really happened could be significant in determining the fate of Hackman's estimated $80 million estate. It has emerged Hackman left his entire estate to his Arakawa. Hackman's will, drawn up in 1995, makes no mention of his 3 children, son Christopher and daughters Leslie and Elizabeth. In her own will, Arakawa left most of her assets to Hackman. However, the document also reportedly includes a clause stating that if the couple died within 90 days of each other, it would be considered a simultaneous death, and all her assets would be donated to charity. Hackman's son Christopher has reportedly already hired Andrew M. Katzenstein, a prominent California trust and estate attorney, which could indicate he plans to challenge his father's will. Since retiring from acting in 2004, Hackman had been open about his health struggles, revealing in 2009 that his doctor wanted him to quit Hollywood due to the stress on his heart. The actor told Empire, "The straw that broke the camel's back was actually a stress test that I took in New York. The doctor advised me that my heart wasn't in the kind of shape that I should be putting it under any stress." Hackman previously told CNN interviewer Larry King that he had angioplasty surgery to heal his angina in the 1990s. Angioplasty is a medical procedure that restores blood flow to the heart muscle after the coronary arteries become blocked. "I try to take care of myself," he said at the time. "I don't have a lot of fears. I have the normal fear of passing away. You know, I guess we all think about that, especially when you get to be a certain age. I want to make sure that my wife and my family are taken care of. Other than that, I don't have a lot of fears." Hackman's 3 children were from his marriage to his first wife, Faye Maltese. The pair were married from 1956 to 1986. Maltese died in 2017, but the big headache now turns to the vast estate left by the couple. As earlier mentioned, Hackman's will, last updated in 2005, left everything to a single beneficiary, being his wife. Unfortunately, medical evidence now suggests that she predeceased her husband by nearly a week. Similarly, Betsy left a will in which she left everything to her husband. Therefore, as the actor survived his wife, even by only a few days, he inherited her estate prior to his own death. However, since his will did not make provisions for an alternative beneficiary other than his wife, the value of their joint estate will now be dealt with under the U.S. laws of intestacy. Consequently, it seems that the fortune will now be inherited by the late actor's next of kin, his 3 children, despite the fact that the actor made no provision for them in his will. The result would be the same if the Scottish law of intestacy were applied to the actor's estate. So, what is intestacy? Intestacy is most commonly encountered where the deceased died without leaving a will. When an estate is intestate, it is distributed according to the law of intestacy, which determines the hierarchy of beneficiaries and the share each is entitled to receive. In Scotland, these rules are set out in the Succession Act of 1964, which prioritizes spouses, civil partners, and children. If there is neither spouse nor children, your estate is essentially distributed to your next of kin. However, there is no limit on the remoteness of the relationship. Even if your nearest relations are third cousins who have never met you, if you die intestate, they will inherit. Sadly, sometimes no relation can be identified, in which case the government will inherit as the ultimus haeres or ultimate heir. These rules rarely align with the deceased's wishes, and in the case of Hackman, it seems clear he did not intend his children to benefit. While intestacy largely occurs when there is no will, it can occur in other circumstances where the deceased had made a will. Some of the more common scenarios are when the will is invalid. This usually arises when the will is homemade and the deceased does not realize that the document does not comply with the legal requirements of a will. It can also happen with a will with no destination over. As we have seen, Gene Hackman left a valid will, but the named beneficiary predeceased him, and the will did not specify an alternative beneficiary. Provision for an alternative beneficiary is called a destination over. A testator should always make provision for a substitute beneficiary or beneficiaries to prevent their estate from falling into intestacy. Thirdly, intestacy can occur when will does not deal with the whole estate. This is known as partial intestacy. The will fails to deal with the whole estate usually because the deceased has omitted to mention certain assets. The omitted assets are dealt with under intestacy. Again, this usually arises because the deceased has drafted the will themselves. Hackman may have had iconic roles in The French Connection and Superman, but he retained privacy regarding his family life throughout his decades-long career. Over the years, Hackman remained quiet about his personal life, including about his children, in interviews. In 1989, he told film critic John C. Tibbets that audiences were drawn to him because he could be perceived as a common man, explaining, "I like to keep my personal life fairly common, so that in my art, one can let go and one can soar." Hackman, who announced his retirement from acting in 2004, reflected on the early days of his career on Larry King Live, when host Larry King asked how he was able to handle the transition from a sparse career to an illustrious one. "I didn't handle it very well, really," Hackman said. "I took care of my family. My family's never wanted for anything, but because I was so enamored of the Hollywood of old, the glamour of that, although I never involved myself in that, I was really so taken with that. The fact that I was part of that, and that I could be anything and anyone I wanted to be." Hackman gave rare comments about his adult children to the Irish Independent in August 2000, crediting them for his decision to continue acting rather than opting for a role behind the camera. After acquiring the rights to The Silence of the Lambs with the intention of making his debut as a director, he ultimately turned down the job, a choice he said he did not regret. "I don't have any second thoughts about that decision," he said. "My kids helped me see that it just wasn't the best thing for me to do." He also acknowledged that it was tough being the child of a celebrity, adding, "I couldn't always be home with them when they were growing up, and then, living in California, they've had my success always hanging over their heads." Hackman and his first wife, Maltese, welcomed their first child, son Christopher Allen Hackman, in 1960. The two-time Academy Award winner sat down with journalist Lita Powell Drake in February 1984 for an interview about his film Misunderstood. When Drake asked Hackman if there was ever a day when he stopped hugging his son, then in his 20s, and opted for a handshake instead, he replied, "No, we still hug to this day, and I thank God that we are able to do that." He added, "I don't think we'll ever have a point where we have to shake hands. That was a real stretch for me in the film, and one of the coldest things that one can do is not be aware and be insensitive to that need of a child to be wrapped in a father's arms." The actor also spoke about parenthood in a 2011 interview with GQ. Asked if there was any advice that he gave to his son, the actor said, "I lost touch with my son in terms of advice early on." He continued, "Maybe it had to do with being gone so much, doing location films when he was at an age where he needed support and guidance. It was very tough for me to be gone for 3 months and then come home and start bossing him around." While reflecting on his journey to becoming a novelist, Hackman shared his son's early career aspirations during a January 2020 interview with Empire magazine. "My son thought he wanted to be an actor at one time and was in New York, and I wrote him a couple of little monologues," he said. "I guess that's where I started. I really enjoyed it. Ideas would just pop into my head and I would write them down." Hackman and Maltese welcomed their second child, Elizabeth Jean Hackman, in August 1962. Not much is known about Elizabeth, and Hackman seldom discussed his family in interviews. Though he didn't specify which of his 2 daughters he was speaking about, he once shared a candid story about a tough period of his career in the 70s and 80s. "I used to have to borrow my daughter's car to go to interviews in Hollywood," he told Cigar Aficionado in 2000. "I was just barely hanging in, taking pretty much anything that was offered to me and trying to make it work." As children, Elizabeth and her younger sister Leslie were photographed sitting on their dad's lap while he donned a Los Angeles Dodgers jersey at a celebrity baseball game. Elizabeth also attended several events with her father, including the December 1978 screening of Superman, in which he played villain Lex Luthor at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. Years later, in October 1996, she was photographed at the premiere of Hackman's movie The Chamber in Beverly Hills, alongside her sister and her stepmother, Arakawa. After her father's death, Elizabeth told TMZ that the family suspects toxic fumes, like carbon monoxide, may be to blame. The couple welcomed their third child, daughter Leslie Ann Hackman, in October 1966. Like her older siblings, not much is known about the youngest of Hackman's children. In 1984, journalist Bobby Wygant spoke to Hackman about his movie Misunderstood and asked if the movie touched him more as a father or as a son who had a fraught relationship with his own dad. Leslie has been photographed with her father over the years, including at several movie premieres. In January 1984, she attended the 41st Annual Golden Globe Awards with Hackman. They also went to the December 1990 premiere of The Godfather Part 3 and the March 1991 premiere of Class Action. So, will these three inherit their father's estate? Only time will tell. And that's it from us today. Until next time, thank you for watching.